Greetings, dear viewer, and welcome to Purposes Crossed, where I hope that people who are called by Jesus for different purposes cross paths and exchange ideas. I'm publishing this video without consideration for my regular schedule. This is because the message in this video is so urgent it cannot wait. I hope by the end of the video, you too will be convinced about the urgency of this message. Now, till now, I have not asked you to share any of my videos, but if you think the message in this video is worth sharing, I request you to please do so. With that out of the way, let me proceed with the rest of the video. The title of this video may sound very strange to you, so let me provide a word of explanation before I proceed. Carmen Christi is Latin for Hymn of Christ, and it refers to the hymn found in Philippians chapter 2, verses 6 through 11. Birkat Kohanim is Hebrew for blessing of the priests, and it refers to the blessing found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 27. We often call it the Aaronic blessing. In this video, I wish to have the two play off each other in the hope of discovering some new meanings that to me are groundbreaking. So first, let us set the context of the Carmen Christi. Paul begins chapter 2 with an exhortation to the Philippians to be united by putting aside ambition and assuming a posture of humility towards each other. He then quotes the hymn as an example of what they should follow to have the mind of Christ. When I first began to study the hymn, I understood it as follows. Jesus being in the form of God means he is God. Despite this, he did not cling to the divine prerogatives that were rightly his. Rather, he emptied himself by refusing to use some of these divine privileges. He obeyed God to the point of death on a cross. As a result of this, God exalted Jesus so that at the end of time, everyone will acknowledge his lordship. Now, this is a common way of understanding this hymn. However, later, through the writings of James D.G. Dunn and N.T. Wright, and also in my classes with Colin Brown at Fuller Seminary, I came to a different understanding of the hymn. I came to realize that the phrase, in the form of God, which is in the hymn, was incorrectly translated as in very nature God by the NIV. The way the NIV translates the phrase seems to indicate that the hymn is speaking of Jesus' divinity. But why did Paul use a cumbersome phrase, in the form of God, if he meant in very nature God? Perhaps he didn't mean what the NIV takes it to mean. After all, in the verse before the hymn begins, Paul writes, in your relationships with one another, have the same mind as Christ Jesus. This can only be a valid exhortation to humans if Paul was giving them an example of a human. Just as we say that boys, that is, young males, should have positive adult male role models, so also humans need to have positive human role models. Giving humans a divine role model would be counterproductive, since humans would then use this difference between themselves and this divine role model as an excuse not to follow the role model. For a person to function as a role model, there needs to be some level of identification with that person. Hence, like the scholars I've just mentioned, I concluded that in the form of God was a reference to Adam, who was created in the image of God. Paul was not saying that we should imitate the divine Jesus, but that we should imitate the human Jesus. Adam had attempted to become like God by eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Unlike Adam, Jesus did not grab at equality with God, but emptied himself, not of divine prerogatives or privileges, but of the desire to assert himself, to protect himself, and to elevate himself. So, I held that view for many years, but recent meditation on the Birkat Kohanim has widened my understanding of the hymn. The blessing in number 6 reads, the Lord bless you and keep you, the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you, the Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. That is the NIV. However, there's a problem with that last clause. The word translated turn actually means lift up. The old King James Version was correct to render it as, the Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. This is a strange idea, of course, which is perhaps why the NIV chose to remove the idea of lifting up and replace it with the idea of turning. However, I think that the translators of NIV have missed a vital point here. The blessing opens with the words, the Lord bless you. The Hebrew word translated bless is Barak. But the primary meaning of Barak is to kneel. The Hebrew lexicons are consistent about this. They even agree that the meaning to bless is obtained only by implication. What would happen if we read the blessing with both meanings in mind then, the primary as well as the implied meaning? Then the opening phrase, the Lord bless you, would mean the Lord kneel and bless you. This sounds almost blasphemous. The Lord kneel? And that is perhaps why our translations do not include this primary meaning of Barak. But this primary meaning actually makes more sense of that final clause of the blessing, the one where the NIV has changed lift up to turn. After all, if Yahweh has knelt to bless me, then to look at me, he would have to lift his face up. This verges so close to blasphemy that I'm even trembling while I'm saying this. The Birkat Kohanim is telling us not that Yahweh will bless us by assuming a position of superiority, as we often assume, but a position of inferiority. Yahweh blesses his people not by throwing blessings from above, but by serving them from below. Perhaps a couple of examples will illustrate better what I am trying to put across. I am a proud father of 2 girls, young women I should say. When they were young, I remember kneeling down to tie their shoelaces before they were old enough to do it. Having tied shoelaces is something that they needed, and so I knelt to bless them by doing something that they couldn't do, tying their shoelaces. When they were a little older, I remember kneeling to come down to their level physically, to speak with them when I had something important to say to them. In my more sane and wise moments, I did not tower over them, but knelt so that we were eye to eye. By doing this, I blessed them by not relying on a power differential that would be established by the difference of height. But when they were toddlers, I remember kneeling to carry them up, raising them above my head so that they could look down on me, smiling up at them. Through this act, they knew that their dad received immense joy from them and loved them without reservation. If I, as a frail and fickle, fumbling father, could do this, and if God is the source of all fatherhood, then could it be that the Birkat Kohanim was actually attempting to tell us the same? Could God be blessing us by helping us to accomplish what we are incapable of doing and showing us how to do it, like the tying of the shoelaces? Could God be blessing us by reducing the power difference so that we wouldn't be threatened by Him, like when I knelt to be eye to eye with my daughters? Could God be blessing us by lifting us high so that we could see the joy that He receives by being our Father, like when I lifted my daughters up and smiled up at them? Once I reached this understanding, it was inevitable that I would change my understanding of the Carmen Christi as well. For now I understood that the hymn gives us not one, but 2 pictures of Jesus. There is, of course, that contrast with Adam. Jesus, by emptying himself of his desire to assert and protect himself and to elevate himself, shows us how to be truly human. But there is a second meaning. Jesus also shows us something about how God interacts with us. Precisely because he was in the form of God, he emptied himself. After all, the Birkat Kohanim makes it clear that Yahweh blesses his people through service by kneeling. Hence, the truly divine person, Jesus, could only imitate God by also emptying himself and taking on the role of a servant. By doing this, Jesus shows us the nature of God that we are called to imitate. This is the God who does not throw his weight around, but who willingly serves his people. If it is true, as Jesus himself claimed, that the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, it is because the Son of Man was showing the way of wielding authority that he had learned from God, his Father. The Son of Man came to serve because Yahweh comes to his people to kneel and to serve. And think about it. If we Christians had this vision of God, we would never have allowed the atrocities that were done in the name of Jesus. It is because we had a different vision of God that we remained silent in the face of conquest, colonialism, racism, and misogyny. None of those could have been done by those who understood that they worshipped a God who knelt to bless them. Have I crossed over to blasphemy? In the eyes of many, I may have, but I do not think so. By allowing a dual meaning in the Birkat Kohanim and the Carmen Christi, we see a different vision of God, not as a God who conquers with violence, but who rules through service. Jesus empties himself not despite being God, but because he is God. Are we willing to follow the serving Son of Man by accepting and imitating his vision of authority through service? Time will tell.